All right, today we're diving into something, well, it's pretty fascinating and honestly a little unsettling. It's an idea that's been bubbling up from the weirdest corners of the web, and it's called the dead internet theory. But let me ask you something first. Have you ever been, just scrolling through social media and you get this weird feeling? Like all the comments sound exactly the same, the posts are just slightly different versions of each other, and maybe, just maybe, you're the only real person left in a sea of ghosts and machines? If that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. Yeah, there's actually a name for that feeling. It's called the dead internet theory. So, what is it? Well, at its core, it's this belief that sometime around 2016, the internet as we knew it, the real, human, chaotic internet, basically just died. And what's left is a kind of hollow shell, mostly filled with AI-generated content and bots, all working as part of some giant hidden conspiracy to control what we all think. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at this idea of a web without people. Then, we'll dig into the so-called proof that believers point to. After that, we'll get into what the experts think, and then explore why this whole thing feels so true, even if it isn't. And finally, we'll talk about what this means for all of us online. All right, let's jump right in. What does it even mean to say the internet is dead? What's the core idea here? This quote from one of the first people who really pushed this theory, I think it just perfectly captures the feeling. It's not just about, oh, there are bots online. It's this deep sense of emptiness. The idea that all those weird, wonderful, chaotic human spaces we used to have online have been replaced by something cold, calculated, and just sterile. And look, this isn't just some vague feeling people have. The theory makes some really specific claims. First, it puts a date on it. The internet died somewhere around 2016 or 2017. Second, it claims that most of the stuff you see, posts, comments, you name it, is actually made by machines. Third, and this is the big one, it's not happening by accident. It's a coordinated conspiracy to manipulate all of us. And the result? Real human users, people like you and me, have basically been shoved to the sidelines. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But the people who believe this theory, they claim the evidence is everywhere. So let's take a look at the proof they're seeing. So, a lot of the time, the argument starts with this one number, almost 50%. A 2023 report found that nearly half, 49.6% to be exact, of all internet traffic wasn't human. It was bots. Now, for believers, that's not just a random statistic. That's the smoking gun. I mean, they look at a number like that and they just go, see, we're already outnumbered. To them, it's clear-cut evidence that the internet isn't for people anymore. It's for automated scripts running in the background, quietly shaping everything we see and do online. But it's not just about the big data points. It's the little things, the anecdotal stuff that really pour fuel on this fire. This quote here really gets at that feeling of digital déjà vu. You've probably seen it, right? Those copy-pasted phrases that just go insanely viral, like all those tweets starting with, "I hate texting," getting thousands and thousands of likes. It doesn't feel like a bunch of people having the same thought. It feels more like a switch was flipped and a bot network just woke up. And then you get the really weird stuff. I mean, did you see those shrimp Jesus images that were all over Facebook? Just bizarre AI-generated pictures of Jesus with like shrimp and crabs and then thousands of comments underneath just saying amen. For someone who believes this theory, that's not just some weird spam. That's a direct look at the dead internet doing its thing. And you know what really poured gasoline on this whole fire? The explosion of generative AI. When ChatGPT dropped in late 2022, suddenly anyone could create endless amounts of content. Fast forward to 2024, and you have Google itself admitting its search results are basically drowning in what they call AI slop. So when you hear futurists predicting that like 99% of online content could be AI generated in just a few years, well, the dead internet theory starts to sound less like a crazy conspiracy and a lot more like a weather forecast. Okay, so that's the argument for the dead internet theory. And you have to admit, it's a pretty compelling story, even if it is a bit chilling. But what are the actual tech experts, the journalists, the researchers, what do they think about all this? And this is really where you see two totally different explanations.
You've got the theory on one hand, which says this is a planned, secret conspiracy. But then you have the expert view, which points to something way more chaotic and, well, less organized. They call it AI slop, basically a flood of low-quality automated content that isn't driven by some secret group, but by something much simpler, broken algorithms and people just trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah, a paranoid fantasy. That's literally how a lot of tech journalists describe the theory when you take it at face value. Now, they're not saying the problems aren't real. They absolutely see the bots and the spam and the AI-generated junk. But the idea that it's all part of some massive secret plot, that's the part they say is just a fantasy. See, the experts offer much more, well, boring explanations for all this stuff. Remember that almost 50% bot traffic number? A huge part of that is actually good bots, like the ones Google uses to map out the web so you can find things. That endless spam, it's not some shadow government, it's usually just some person trying to scam people for money. And all that repetitive content, that's exactly what social media algorithms are built to promote. And yeah, the platforms aren't perfect, but they do spend a ton of time and money trying to get rid of bots. Okay, so if the literal conspiracy theory is probably just a fantasy, then why does it feel so incredibly real to so many people? And this, I think, is where it gets really, really interesting. Because maybe the dead internet theory is less about facts and more about a feeling. And a huge part of that feeling seems to be nostalgia. I mean, studies show that most of us feel nostalgic, and we especially lean on that feeling when we're anxious about what's coming next. And that's a key piece of this whole puzzle. The dead internet theory, it's not really just about bots and AI. It's about missing a past that felt simpler, more real, more authentic.
And this really gets to the heart of it, right? A lot of us remember an older internet. An internet of weird little forums, personal blogs, of actually discovering something new and unexpected. It felt human. The internet today, it feels algorithmic. It feels automated. It can feel really, really alienating. The dead internet theory, it's just a name for that feeling of loss.
So in the end, the theory is almost like a modern myth. It takes all these separate anxieties we have, about AI taking our jobs, our privacy being invaded, giant companies controlling what we see, and it wraps them all up into one neat story. A story with a clear bad guy. And that can make a really confusing world feel just a little bit less chaotic.
So where do we go from here? If the internet isn't literally dead, but it really feels like it is sometimes, what's the takeaway? What does this all mean for our future online?
I think this quote from a researcher named Jake Renzella just nails it. Maybe the point isn't to take the theory literally. The point is to use it as a lens. It's a huge reminder to be skeptical, to question what pops up on your screen, and to always remember that the person you're interacting with might not be a person at all. It's really a cautionary tale for the world we're living in now.
And that really leaves us with one big question, doesn't it? That line between human and machine, between what's real and what's fake, it's getting blurrier every single day. So as our world gets more and more synthetic, we all have to ask ourselves, what does it even mean to be real online anymore?